Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to another episode of the B2B website series here on B2B Growth, where we discuss practical and actionable topics to meet you wherever you are in your website journey. My name is Eric Sharp, and I am the host of this series. If you are a returning listener to this series, welcome back. If this is your first episode, thank you for your time. In this episode, I'm going to share some ideas on how to prevent consumers from wasting time on your B2B website. Now, this is every marketer's worst nightmare. Consumers, the people who don't buy from you, will find a way into your website if you're strictly a business-to-business company, okay? So these people will also spend time clicking around and maybe, depending on the quality and clarity of your website's messaging, even inquire about your product and service. Ugh, what waste, right? We've all gotten those inquiries of people that are just not qualified. I'm going to have a movie reference here, and for those that have kids, you guys will understand the example here. But if you've ever seen the animated musical Sing, and thanks to my kids, I've watched it about 163 times, these people would be like Buster Moon when he chose that 5-star restaurant for lunch with his buddy Eddie. For those that have seen it, you remember that scene? He shows up with an old, rusty bicycle. He never orders any food. He actually brings his own lunchbox and pulls out his own sandwich, and ultimately wasted the resources of the waiter and everyone at that fine establishment. Spoiler alert, he was tossed out of the restaurant, which you probably would assume. Now, unfortunately, you can't toss people out of your website or even close your website's doors. But the key to this is you can limit. That is the goal here. You can't close your website's doors and prevent these people from getting in, clicking around and filling out forms, but you can do a couple different things to limit this audience, get people to recognize that you're B2B and quickly bounce, or, put little tactical things in and spread them around your site to hopefully send them packing, because that's what we want. So before I share 5 ways of limiting this audience, let's talk briefly about why consumer traffic and website usage is a problem. Because maybe some of you are listening and thinking, why is this bad? Well, we're getting traffic, we're looking at reports, why is traffic bad? Well, I've explored this topic a lot in the past, but not all traffic is good traffic. So let's talk through why this consumer traffic and website usage has a negative impact in your overall digital marketing efforts. First and foremost, and I hinted on this already, is it will inflate and skew your website traffic reports. If you're reporting on this on a monthly or weekly or quarterly or whatever the frequency is, you are going to be looking at skewed data, and we all don't want that. And another problem that it has is when you get a lead from your site, there can be that anticipation and sort of that high of getting a new lead, but then you realize they're not qualified and it's a consumer reaching out to you that's filled out your lead generation form, and you kind of go in this highs and lows, and nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to put a unqualified lead in front of a salesperson. That, of course, is another negative. It will also create contacts in your CRM that are going to be needing pruning and deleting. So you got some sort of data cleanup and some data management overhead that nobody likes to do. If you're using marketing automation, it will start triggering different events and emails get generated based upon activity. And again, you're sending out messaging to people that don't care about your product or service or will never buy your product or service. And a couple other ones, your sales team is going to waste time and energy. Your sales team is going to get disgruntled that marketing is not bringing qualified leads to the table. Anyway, there's definitely, this is not a good thing. You want to prevent consumers from clicking around your site, filling out forms, and just skewing your data across the board. So what can you do? So here are 5 tips to help prevent. Again, we're not going to completely alleviate, we can't shut your website's doors, but we can prevent consumers from wasting time on your B2B website. So here are the 5 ways that you can do that. Number 1, I would say you'd probably want to scrutinize any sort of add to cart functionality and focus on a more B2B specific call to action. As you know, a listener to this show, you're in B2B, and businesses that sell to other businesses typically have a sophisticated product or service. And a B2B's digital marketing mindset is less about buy now and more about learn more. That add to cart functionality kind of gives, or the add to cart, buy now, checkout, that functionality really resonates with more of a B2C buying behavior than B2B. So when a product can be purchased at $10,000, $20,000, $47,900 with a click of a button, it just kind of gives this sense that maybe there's a consumer feel to your site and it's going to keep them hanging around a little bit longer. So again, I would scrutinize, if you have an add to cart functionality, I would say start thinking about different ways of adding in a call to action. So this could be request a quote, this could be request a demo, talk to an expert, get product information. Those are the types of things, those are the button labels, those are the calls to action that you really want to be sort of spreading around your website. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, and this has got a sort of a search engine optimization bent to it, is you want to ensure that your SEO and specifically your metadata communicates details of your B2B product or service. So if you have an SEO-friendly website, which we all want, you are going to naturally open yourself up to getting unwanted organic traffic. What can you do to reduce the amount of unqualified traffic here from consumers? Can you do anything? And I think that you can. What I'm going to zoom in on is your meta title and your meta description. So I know I'm getting kind of technical here when it comes to SEO, but for those that are following that understand what I'm talking about, I think this is the key to point number 2, is you want to make sure you're really careful with the words that you use in your meta title, which is, again, is if you search for something in Google and you see that big blue link in the search results page, that's your meta title. And then the text underneath that big blue link in the Google search results page is your meta description. Okay, so you have control over that for every page of your website. So what you want to do is you want to use specific verbiage. So for example, product features, specifications in your meta title and your meta description to alarm these Googlers that your website has got this B2B bent. So hopefully the goal in doing that is you want to deflect them from clicking your link in Google and visiting your website. So you're almost preventing people from even getting to your website with some of the key words that you're putting in your metadata, right? Does that make sense? To give you a very specific example, I shared this in a previous episode here on the B2B website series, but our client, Cactus Technologies, they make industrial grade compact flash. So any sort of flash storage, really. And this isn't flash stores that you can buy at an end cap in Best Buy, right? This stuff is very high end, it's very industrial, and they sell large amounts for it. So they were very concerned about generating traffic from a consumer looking for compact flash cards and so on and so forth. So what did we do to sort of combat that? Well, we made sure that we understood Cactus's value proposition, which was all about industrial grade, reliability, some of these very specific features like write protect and security locking and those things that you typically don't see with a consumer product. We injected that into the metadata. So when someone searches for a compact flash, and if Cactus happened to fit that search, they're going to see, the person Googling is going to see some of those keywords, right? The write protect, the security, the industrial grade. And hopefully they think to themselves, okay, this is not where I go to buy a compact flash card for $20. Now, this isn't bulletproof. People are, I'm sure you've Googled something and you quickly search on the search results and you go to the site and then you go back to the search results and you kind of click around until you find something. But again, this is something small that you can do that hopefully helps out a little bit across the board. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is less technical. So those that are listening that are not as technical, I think you really appreciate this one. But you want to nail your value proposition on your homepage. Gosh, I have talked about value proposition so much over the last decade, and it's something that I've really explored and thought long and hard about. But really, this point, number 3, nailing your value proposition on your homepage is getting consumers to say this to themselves. This company definitely can't help me. If you've articulated your value proposition on your homepage and hopefully everywhere on your site, you want these consumers to be saying this in their mind once they arrive on your site. Gosh, this company is definitely not what I'm looking for. Yes, your bounce rate's going to be high. They're going to go back to the search results page. They're going to try to find a different website, but that's what you want. You don't want these people hanging around, skewing your data, filling out forms, and so forth. So the clearer that you can articulate your value proposition on your homepage and every page of your website, the better that you'll do as far as turning these people away. And that is for sure a good thing. So that's number 3. Number 4 is, and this gets a little tricky because some companies don't like to reveal pricing information on their product or service, but this is tricky. I know this tactic makes a lot of B2B companies squirm, but you want to reveal product and service pricing. So going back to my Cactus Technologies client, if they put pricing on there, hey, minimum order of 500 units each, and they maybe listed their range of pricing, that's going to turn away the consumer, right? That's visiting looking for a $50 compact flash card. This is something that you really need to kind of debate the politics on and discuss the potential sales ramifications within your organization. This is definitely not a one size fits all, but if you can educate the people visiting your website, and if those people are consumers and you show pricing, then you're going to send them packing very, very quickly. Because again, typically in a B2B space, you've got a product or a service that's got a long buying cycle. It's got a high dollar amount. Again, this gets a little tricky. There are some politics. Some people don't like to reveal pricing information until a demo is required or a demo is facilitated. And there's all sorts of strategies and tactics that back up why you shouldn't do it. But I really think that this could be something that could turn away consumer traffic. And that's really the goal here of this episode. And my point is you could implement a pricing guideline. You could talk through, if you're a service-based company, you could say, hey, our minimum level of engagement starts at, $20,000 or something like that. In your case studies, which we talked about case studies in the previous episode, you could work pricing in parallel with case studies if that feels a little bit more comfortable for you. But the key to this is to reveal product and service pricing, and hopefully that turns these consumers away and finding another website where they can waste their time on. All right, so number 5, and this is the last one, is have a clearly articulated point of view in your thought leadership, and then sprinkle it everywhere. Your B2B focused content should pop flares for consumer audiences on every single page. When you're creating a piece of content, you want to be setting the alarms everywhere for consumers to indicate that, hey, we focus specifically on servicing B2B clients, right? And the more that you speak into that with your thought leadership, your blog posts, your white papers, your articles, and then you're sprinkling that content throughout every page of your site, these consumers are going to, whatever page that they enter your website in, they're going to see links to this thought leadership. And this thought leadership is going to be very niche and very specific. And the hope is that, gosh, this is what this company is thinking about and discussing internally. And this is the type of content that they're putting out. I don't know if they're going to be a good fit for us, right? And that's what we want, right? We want to kind of create that curiosity, and we want them to sort of stop what they're doing and evaluate if they're on the right website. That's number 5. Again, just to kind of go through this really quickly. Again, the 5 ways to prevent, again, not completely alleviate, but prevent consumers from wasting time on your website was scrutinize the add to cart functionality. Number 2, ensure your SEO, specifically your metadata, communicates details of your B2B product or service. Number 3 is nail your value proposition, especially on your homepage. Number 4, reveal some product or service pricing. Number 5, have a clearly articulated point of view in your thought leadership and sprinkle it everywhere. So again, remember, this is about prevention. It's not about completely alleviating. You can't close your website's doors. So that puts another wrap to another B2B Websites episode here on B2B Growth. Hopefully you found this valuable. If you have any questions or further thoughts, I love talking websites. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can also be found on the 1 to 10 podcast, where I host and talk to people in and around B2B tech companies about how they grew from 1 million to 10 million in revenue and beyond. Thank you again for your time. Talk to you next time.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big 3, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.